Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing the first part of a little series that I'm doing called Conquer the Classics, and basically I'm just breaking down makeup into bite-sized categories that I feel people still struggle with. So today's one is going to be on skin, and I'm calling it Flawless Fresh Faced Foundation, which is quite difficult to say. I'm going to do a bit of a talking bit first because there's some important things I want to say and I don't want to forget them because I will probably get lost in the makeup. So firstly, always try and get a sample. If you're buying a foundation from a department store or a boutique, take a sample pot, or sometimes they have them, and wear the foundation for a few days to see if you like it before committing. There's nothing worse than buying a foundation and then it just ends up in the drawer because you don't like it and it's the wrong colour. Second thing I'd like to say is don't get frustrated if one foundation doesn't fit your whole face. As black women or women of colour, oftentimes our faces aren't the same colour from our hairline to our jawline. That's not really a problem. Just pick a foundation that matches the biggest part of your face that's the same colour. So for me, like, my cheeks are the most uniform, so I usually pick a colour that matches here, and then I either tweak it and customise it with like my concealer palette that I'll show you later, or I use another foundation to adjust it. Colour correction. You don't always need colour correction. There's this crazy trend at the moment where people are just plastering their face in orange lipstick or whatever they can get their hands on. It's not always necessary. The technology is quite advanced in a lot of different like foundations and concealers, and sometimes that's enough to cover your area of concern. So I would say try that first, and if it doesn't work, then go in with a colour corrector. I like to use the one from MAC in the dual-ended little thing, because the colour is not orange, it's like a deep terracotta, and it kind of marries a bit more seamlessly with my natural skin tone than an orange would, and it's less work to cover with foundation, but it still brightens. So for me, that's definitely a win-win. What else do I have to say? I think, if you're trying to go for a really fresh foundation and something that's quite modern, I would always say pick the sheerest coverage you feel the most comfortable in. You know, this will differ for different people. I like quite a light base, but some people feel more comfortable wearing a bit more, which is cool. But I find that it's kind of more modern if you wear like a really sheer base all over and then just use a bit of a concealer to address like problem areas or areas of concern, rather than just going for like the full-on cake everywhere. So now that I've got my little speech out of the way, I'm going to start with my makeup. I'm going to use some Fix Plus first. My face is just dry. I haven't put any moisturiser on yet. And I'm going to do a tiny bit of my lip balm, which is the same one I use, the Sisley Nutritive Lip Balm. And today I'm not using a primer because I really want to focus on creating a fresh and dewy skin. So I'm just using a tiny bit of Embryolisse moisturiser. I love this. It's a bit of a Fashion Week staple, a bit of a cult favourite, this moisturiser, and it does make base go on so nice. You might hear Amanda outside. My husband is really helping me out and he's looking after him for me whilst I quickly shoot this video, so I can concentrate on this. First, I'm going to set my brows before I start any colour product. I'm just using my Illamasqua brow gel and brushing my brows into place. And then I'm going to do my colour correction. So like I said, I like to use the Pro Conceal and Correct one from MAC. And this colour was Burnt Coral. Right. Oh no. Don't know what's going on out there. And I just use a tiny bit of this. And then spray a bit on my sponge. And just blend that out. You should see it just brightens, but it doesn't leave an orange film on my face, which was very helpful. Let's pull the sleeves up. Today, because I want to create a really glowy foundation, I'm going to show you another little tip or another little trick you can do. So I'm using the Bobbi Brown Skin Foundation, and the colour I'm wearing is 7.25, and I'm mixing a tiny bit of my Giorgio Armani Fluid Sheer into this. This is a really good way of customising your foundation. If you wear a matte one like during the week and you want something a bit more glowy on the weekend, you don't have to have a separate one. You can just use this and blend it in to your foundation that you have already. I did a bit of makeup window shopping yesterday, and I stopped at Dior, and they have these like customizing illuminating drops that you can put into your foundation, but the dark one was too bronze for my skin tone and the next shade up was too light, so I think I'm going to stick with this one. I love this Fluid Sheer product, it's amazing. You can use it underneath foundation or you can use it on top. I use the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in Amande, my favourite, and I'm going to pop this on first into the most recessed areas of my face, which is just a polite way of saying eye bags. And I put a tiny bit on my lids and a tiny bit in the corner here because I have a bit of darkness in this area that I like to lift. And then whilst that's setting, I'm going to move on to my forehead. So I never put any highlight products on my forehead at all. I know like lots of people put highlighter here, down their nose, blah, blah, blah. I don't highlight my forehead because, you know, God was very kind and gave me a really high, round, light-seeking forehead, so it doesn't ever, ever need any highlight. So I like to use my Pro Conceal and Corrects palette, and I actually take a colour that's a bit darker than my skin. So I mix NW55, which is very deep, and a little bit of NC50. And I just pat these onto my forehead. And I don't put it all over, I literally just put it in the middle. The real reason that I do this is because I've got foundation on the lower half of my face, it will look really weird if I don't carry any up here. So I do a tiny, tiny bit, just so that my whole face marries. I don't put foundation on my nose because I kind of like that I have a few like freckles or like pigment spots on my nose, and I feel like my skin looks more believable when they show through, so I never cover that, and I hate product build-up in this area, so I don't put product there. Now that my concealer has dried down a little bit, I'm just going to blend that all through. I'm using my MAC 224 and just blending this all away. I can hear Emily's dad playing. God, it's so nice to not have to worry about him busting through. Now I'm going to add a bit more highlight. Even though I've mixed it into my foundation, I'm going to just pump up my cheekbone a little bit more. So I'm just going in with a tiny bit of the Fluid Sheer. I lied, not a tiny bit, a bit more. Maybe like a pump. And then I use my ring finger and just tap that on here. And on here. And I like to put it just on the centre of my nose, just so that the light travels the whole way across my face rather than just having two spotlights. I go back with my Real Technique sponge and just press this all in. Blend it through here. And finally on this side. So now I'm going to move on to contour, which kind of sticks in my throat, that word, a little bit, because contour has been done to death and it's such a beautiful technique when it's done really well, but I just see a lot of dirty looking muddy stripes on people's faces. So I'm going to show you how I would contour my face. So I use the Bobbi Brown Skin Foundation Stick in Cool Espresso 10.25, which is a really deep brown. If you're choosing a contour colour, make sure you pick one that is quite cool. I mean, the whole purpose of contour is to mimic shadows in the face, and nobody has warm coloured shadows. So always err on the side of something that's a bit more ashy or cool tone brown, grey, depending on your skin tone. It's going to look much more believable in terms of mimicking shadow on the face. I don't really use a lot of product. I really do feel like less is more with makeup. And then just a little bit to minimise the height of the forehead. Just go back with my Real Technique sponge and blend that all away. Make sure you work it into the hairline so there's no gap, and blend it down on the forehead. And I also like to reinforce my temples a little bit as well. I think it makes it puts more balance back in the face, because there is a little bit of a dip in the head there. It's good to punch that back in. Okay, and that's what I do for my contour. I never ever ever contour my nose. I don't believe that, you know, there's only one standard of beauty, and that's what I'm really trying to put out on my channel. Everyone is kind of shifting towards this real Eurocentric version of beauty, and I'm not from Europe. My parents are African, I'm Nigerian, and I have an African face and an African nose, and I don't think snatching my nose or contouring it or making it slimmer should make me more attractive, and that's not the message I want to send out to people, so there's no nose contouring on this channel. Rant over. I'm going to do my blusher, and I'm using the Sisley Phyto Lip Twist in colour number 17, which is a lip product, you won't be surprised. And I'm just going to do a tiny bit of that on my cheeks. I really love using cream products because they make such a lovely glow on the face. I love radiant, natural looking skin, that's definitely my thing. And then I'm just going to use my fingers and push this in. It's a really subtle blush. And then just push that in with my sponge again. Make sure it's all blended through. I think I could probably do with a tiny bit more concealer underneath my eyes, so I'm going to do that quickly. And then I'm going to take my YSL Soufflé d'Eclat powder in 04 and just use a tiny, well not tiny, but use a little blending eyeshadow brush from Bobbi Brown and just lock in my concealer. And you'll see that I did it pretty much as soon as I put it on, and that's really important. If your concealer creases or cakes and you don't know why because you're setting it with powder, you're probably setting it after it's got the creases in, so make sure you re-blend everything and then set that with the powder. So now I'm going to set the rest of my face. I'm using my Mineralized Skin Finish in Dark for the middle of my face. Just sweeping that here. A tiny bit on my nose and chin. And then I'm using the Deep Dark, which is the redder one. I'll show you that. Looks like this. And just use that along the jawline and along my forehead. So now that I'm happy with my skin, I'm going to go back and do my brows. I'm not going to go into too much detail about my brows because that's going to be another one of my little mini-series tutorials for you guys. So I'm just going to quickly fill those in. And then I'm using my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer again in Amande just to highlight underneath my brow. I'm using a 239 brush from MAC, which is a fluffy eyeshadow brush. I like using this because it's not so hard, so you don't get a really sharp line underneath the brow. I think I'm happy with this. For lips, I'm using the Bobbi Brown Blue Raspberry Creamy Lip Colour, which is a really nude, like neutral pink. I love it because it doesn't need a lip pencil, which is good. And I might take a tiny bit of that Sisley one just to make it pop a little bit more. And then finally, we're going to finish off with mascara. So I'm using my In Extreme Dimension Giga Black mascara from MAC. I like using this as a lash primer as well, so I will put this on my top lashes first. And then my bottom lashes. I'm a real mascara girl, so I'm going to go over my top lashes with my In Extreme Dimension 3D Black Lash Mascara as well. Guys, that's the final look for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was of some use and some benefit to some people. Just the things that I do to make navigating foundation a little bit easier. I'm really excited about this little series that I'm doing, and hopefully it will help a lot of women with their daily makeup routine and make it a bit less daunting. Please let me know what you think of this video. If there's anything that you'd like to see me do, please also leave me a comment. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Also, I will be posting a picture of this look on my Instagram on the day that this video goes live, just so you can see it in a bit more detail. And oh yeah, follow me on my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye!